And look at the size of this storm. It is wider than our entire state. Regardless of which coast you live on, be prepared to evacuate. Floridians on the West Coast cannot be complacent.
Hurricane Irma hit or miss. The latest on the storm and what you need to know to stay safe on the Sun Coast. Good evening, everyone. I'm Alan Cohen, and welcome to ABC 7 at 7. We'll have more on the latest on Hurricane Irma go in a moment, but first, our top 7 stories at 7. We know Hurricane Irma is a deadly Category 5 hurricane and is bearing down on Florida, but where exactly, we don't know yet. Miami seems to be in the crosshairs, but what about the Sun Coast? Bob Harrigan is the man with the maps. Bob.
Well, Alan, I tell you right now, these maps are showing different playouts as far as where this storm is going to go in 2 to 3 days from now. The European model came out this afternoon right around 2 o'clock, and sure, you've heard about it. It's shifted it a little bit back toward the west coast of Florida. It had been just east of the state. Well, let's get a look at the storm itself first. It's not as symmetrical as it once was, but it's just as powerful. 175-mile-an-hour winds. Pressures come up just very so slightly at this hour, and it continues to head right into the Turks and Caicos. And look at that. The eye is set to move over that small island right there. Just to the right of it, there's a 20-foot storm surge, one of the highest ever recorded for those areas. Now, as far as the latest goes, and we'll get an update here fairly soon, the 8 o'clock advisory, which is not a full-blown advisory. They come at 5 o'clock, then at 11 o'clock, and then again at 5 o'clock in the morning, then 11 o'clock in the morning as well. So 4 times a day, basically, as the result of the hurricanes that are taking place. 175-mile-an-hour winds, gust up to 200. Forecast has it moving off to the west, northwest, around the periphery of a high-pressure ridge, which has been located just to the north of it. But now it's getting to the end of that, and that's going to give it a little weakness in the atmosphere, which will have a tendency to move along that weakness. There's also a little low pressure developing over the lower Mississippi Valley, which will direct it northward too. So the northward movement is fairly certain. We're going to see that, but just when that occurs is going to be the big deciding factor as to who's going to see this storm the most. Right now, the GFS is suggesting along the east coast. The European now is suggesting right across the southern portion of the state and then right through the spine of the peninsula. And we move through time. There's a lot of air. There's over 270 miles where it could be by our location. So there's still a long way to go before we know the exact path. But as we get closer to Friday, obviously we'll know when that bend occurs. There's a GFS. You see it go right into the heart of the peninsula at the southern portion and then right through the middle part of our viewing area. If it did that, Alan, everyone here in this viewing area would see hurricane force winds at that point. Would they be Category 4? No. Would they be Category 3? Unlikely. Category 2? Certainly a possibility at that point, and that does cause damage. Lots of power outages, so make sure you have your flashlights, batteries, and don't use candles, by the way. A lot of folks use candles. Candles can cause fires, and fire trucks can't get out when the winds are strong, so keep that in mind. The GFS, you see, is a little bit further off to the east, but still, that has shifted to the west, so they're playing kind of tag back and forth. European is leading this one, and GFS is following. Yesterday, the GFS led, and the European followed. So there could be a chance still it could go back either way, and you can see that most of the models agree that the East Coast is the most likely area, but the European will shift some of those to the left, too, I believe, in time. Now, as far as the water vapor imagery goes, the area of low pressure that's going to develop is moving across the four corner states out west. It'll eventually set up over the lower Mississippi Valley. The problem is, Alan, these little short waves they're called are very difficult to predict by forecast models because they're such small little pieces of energy that sometimes are missed, and the size and intensity of those. So that's a big factor as to when it's going to make the break to the north as well.
All right, thanks a lot, Bob. Sarasota County and the city of Sarasota are declaring a state of emergency, and emergency managers are busy making preparations. They'll make a voluntary evacuation announcement tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. They'll ask people living in Zone A, the Barrier Islands, and other areas known for flooding to evacuate. No shelters are open yet, but if they do, make the announcement. Select shelters will open around noon tomorrow, and people will have to bring their own sleeping bags, mattresses, and supplies. Manatee County is issuing a voluntary evacuation for low-lying areas. That includes Holmes Beach and people living in mobile homes or in the county's evacuation level A, red color areas on the map near the coast, rivers and streams. Again, this is not mandatory, only voluntary. Manatee County declared a state of emergency yesterday. Starting tomorrow, 4 emergency shelters will open in Manatee County for evacuees at 4 p.m. They are Myakka Elementary School, Braden River High, Manatee High, Mills Elementary, and Nolan Middle School. Braden River, Manatee High, Mills, and Nolan are all pet-friendly. Nolan is also open for those with special needs. Many homeowners on the Suncoast spent the day getting their homes ready for Hurricane Irma. A lot of folks were getting sandbags and also putting up hurricane shutters. Suncoast residents are scrambling to get sandbags, some waiting hours. Hurricane shutters are going up. Experts say if you are planning to put up hurricane shutters, do it sooner rather than later.
Start early. And don't wait until the last minute to try to find somebody to do it, try to line somebody up.
Whether it's shutters or sandbags, people on the Suncoast are not taking any chances. First responders and hospitals on the Suncoast are putting their hurricane action plans in place. Places like Sarasota Memorial Hospital are preparing to respond if Hurricane Irma brings high winds to Sarasota County. It could prevent firefighters and EMS from being able to respond to emergencies, and area hospitals like Sarasota Memorial are still debating whether or not to go into lockdown, which would mean keeping a team of doctors and nurses at the hospital, and visitors would be encouraged to stay at home.
Because we're still taking people in, we're discouraging people from leaving, and if they could not visit, it makes it safer for the patient.
If the power goes out, there are 5 generators and 80,000 gallons of diesel fuel ready to go. Of course, there are always those willing to take advantage of an emergency and price gouging. The state's hotline has received thousands of phone calls in the last 2 days about inflated prices for food and water and ice. Attorney General Pam Bondi says the hotline has never seen this much action. The majority of the calls have come from Broward, Miami-Dade, and Palm Beach counties.
The worst call I got today, and this was the worst of the worst, was a 24-pack of 6-ounce bottles of water for $72. $72. I was in Jupiter today.
If you have evidence of price gouging, you can also call the state's hotline at 1-866-9-NO-SCAM. School districts on the Suncoast are making storm preparations as well. Schools in both Sarasota and Manatee counties will be closed tomorrow. Charlotte County is closing its schools as well. Many college campuses are also closed. The Ringling College of Art and Design has canceled classes until further notice. New College of Florida has canceled all classes today, Friday, and Monday. The University of South Florida, including Sarasota Manatee's campus, will be closed today through Sunday, and the State College of Florida is also closing today through Monday. Also, high school football schedules across the Suncoast have been altered because of the hurricane. There are 3 games left on the weekend schedule, and they will be played tonight instead of Friday. ABC 7's Adam Cellini is live at Riverview High School to explain who is playing and why they are so desperate to get these games in. Adam.
Yeah, Alan, Riverview and Palmetto, one of the few games that decided to play tonight. Kind of a sporadic crowd out here. Now, we're in week 3 of the season, and neither of these teams have played a full 4 quarters in one day, and unfortunately, that's a trend across really the Suncoast. Anyone who hasn't traveled out of the area yet has had trouble getting 4 quarters in. Riverview hoping tonight can be the night. Now, originally, there were 9 games scheduled to play tonight instead of Friday night, but when we woke up this morning, that number had dwindled down to 3. Bradenton Christian will play. Booker will host Sarasota, and of course the Tigers and Rams playing tonight. Riverview head coach Josh Smithers tells us he was worried parents would be calling him asking to cancel this game so families could evacuate, but he received no calls from parents. Neither did Palmetto coach Dave Marino, and both, along with their athletic staffs and the school district athletic directors, decided the show would go on. Now, for decades, these out-of-district games didn't matter, but this year, the Florida High School Athletic Association has a new system for deciding playoff teams based on overall record and strength of schedule. So this is a very important matchup for both teams tonight, but for Smithers, it's important to just find out if his team can finish these games mentally.
You preach all year long it's a 4-quarter game, that nothing's won in one game or 1 quarter, but the last 2 weeks it's been in 1 quarter and 2 quarters. So we like to play the 4 quarters and just play it out just so the kids can, win or lose, you want the kids to be able to feel like they went out there and they were able to control the results and not have Mother Nature control the results.
Now the games have been moved up, so is football Friday night. We're going to have highlights from these 3 games if they play tonight, hopefully. Later tonight, we'll also have a lengthy discussion with another coach in the area about the playoff implications of these rainouts and the decision to cancel this game ahead of Hurricane Irma. That's all coming up at 11 o'clock tonight. For now, live in the Ram Bowl, I'm Adam Cellini. Alan, back to you.
Adam, thank you. And still to come, we'll have an update on the destruction by Hurricane Irma and what we can expect. So stay with us.
The American Red Cross has mobilized a massive relief effort to provide shelter, food, and comfort to the victims of Hurricane Harvey. They will continue to be there in the weeks and months ahead, helping residents recover from this massive storm. Please help people affected by Hurricane Harvey by visiting redcross.org, calling 1-800-RED-CROSS, or texting the word Harvey to 90999 to make a $10 donation. Donations enable the Red Cross to prepare for, respond to, and help people recover from this disaster. Thank you.
Need a light bulb? Batteries Plus Bulbs has a huge selection of LEDs starting as low as $1.49.
The one inside the clothes dryer.
Oh, you use the clothes dryer.
Visit batteriesplus.com for a store near you.
Attention blood thinner users. If your loved one took Xarelto or Pradaxa and suffered serious internal bleeding, call right now. You may be entitled to financial compensation. The widely prescribed blood thinners Xarelto and Pradaxa have been linked to a number of dangerous side effects, including internal bleeding, gastrointestinal bleeding, kidney bleeding, stroke, brain hemorrhaging, and even death. If you or a loved one suffered any of these injuries after taking Xarelto or Pradaxa, call right now. You may be owed significant compensation from the manufacturer. Thousands of blood thinner users may have been exposed to serious risk by these dangerous medications. If you or a loved one took Xarelto or Pradaxa and suffered serious internal bleeding, call right now. Call Nightline Legal to speak with an experienced attorney for a free consultation. If we don't win, there is no fee. There are time deadlines to file a claim, so don't wait. Call right now.
Call 1-800-554-3987. Again, that's 1-800-554-3987.
WWSB ABC7 is an equal opportunity employer, and we're looking for qualified people to join our dynamic team. For a list of current openings and to apply online, visit www.mysuncoast.com/contact/employment. If you're a motivated team player and you want a rewarding career in a fun, fast-paced working environment, WWSB ABC7 could be the perfect fit for you. Check out our list of openings now. Check out My Suncoast Dining on mysuncoast.com, your guide to the foodie lifestyle. ABC7's own Chef Judy serves up her favorite recipes, cooking tips and trends, dining blogs, step-by-step videos, and Suncoast Restaurant Guide. You'll find it all at mysuncoast.com/dining.
Hurricane Irma is a powerful Category 5 hurricane. It has already claimed at least 6 lives in the Caribbean, and the massive storm is expected to reach South Florida this weekend. The governor is declaring a statewide emergency. ABC's Marcy Gonzalez is in New Smyrna Beach with a look at Irma's impact.
Hurricane Irma tearing through the Caribbean. The deadly Category 5 storm's 175-mile-per-hour winds leaving utter devastation. From St. Martin to Puerto Rico, where 1 million people are now without power, to Barbuda. Officials there reporting 95% of structures on the tiny island are damaged.
The entire country has been decimated. I have never seen anything like this before.
Now Florida bracing for what Governor Rick Scott warns could be more disastrous than the worst hurricane to ever hit the state.
The storm is bigger, faster, and stronger than Hurricane Andrew.
Mandatory evacuations are in place in low-lying and coastal parts of South Florida. Everyone in the Keys ordered out.
If you stay and you're being irresponsible, don't expect us to risk the lives of our first responders because of your irresponsibility.
From the Gulf to the Atlantic coast, Floridians heeding the warnings. Traffic stretching for miles. Lines for gas in some places hours long with stations running out.
I'm very nervous. I've been driving around for 30 minutes and my car was on E for like the past hour.
More lines for plywood and water. Many store shelves left empty in the rush to get ready ahead of this monstrous storm.
And a part of that, people are busy boarding up their homes. Others plan to do so tomorrow when many schools and some businesses will be closed to give families time to prepare and evacuate. Marcy Gonzalez, ABC News, New Smyrna Beach, Florida.
You're going to want to stay right there. Bob Harrigan, Sarasota city manager and the former head of communications for FEMA, hunkered down at the trapezoid.
I heard about the Dotole Cancer Center through friends of mine who had been treated here and were very pleased with the treatment.
If there is prostate cancer, we at the Dotole Cancer Center will find it using 3D color flow Doppler ultrasound.
And that helped precisely identify where my cancer was. I can tell you that you will not find a finer, more professional team of clinicians anywhere in the world.
This is important news for women who were administered chemotherapy intravenously for breast cancer and then suffered permanent hair loss. The chemotherapy drug Taxotere has been linked to permanent alopecia or permanent hair loss. Some women administered the breast cancer chemotherapy drug Taxotere have suffered from permanent hair loss on scalp, eyebrows, and eyelashes. The FDA has urged doctors and the manufacturer to warn women administered Taxotere of the risk of permanent hair loss. If you or a loved one were administered chemotherapy intravenously for breast cancer and suffered permanent hair loss, you may have a right to a cash award and medical expenses. If you suffered permanent hair loss after chemotherapy for breast cancer, call the law offices of Davis & Crump at the number below right now to find out if you are eligible for a cash award and medical expenses. Call the law offices of Davis & Crump right now. Our first consultation is free, and we don't get paid unless you get paid. Call now. Operators are standing by.
You might feel like there's too many problems in the world, or that, you as a 15-year-old, 16-year-old can't really make a difference.
It's not always about you. It's not just one person. It's a group. It's a team.
Just that simple act is transforming someone else's life.
It's one of the best feelings in the world.
It'll just make you feel so good about yourself.
I'd do anything to convince you just to be a part of this.
Tomorrow at 4 on Suncoast View.
Get out your calendars. Big names and big stars are coming to the Suncoast. I'm Joey Panic. On Suncoast View, Van Wezel previews their upcoming season, including opera star Renee Fleming, cellist Yo-Yo Ma, Willie Nelson, and Leanne Rimes. We'll give you the tips for getting the best tickets. We'll show you the best buzzworthy novels, including a mystery taking place right here on the Suncoast, plus home crafts for kids and Fins at Sharky's in the kitchen.
Tomorrow at 4 on Suncoast View.
Welcome back. Hit or miss, what you need to know on the Suncoast about Irma. Right now, it appears Irma will hug Florida's east coast. While it may be catastrophic in Miami-Dade County, the Suncoast could be spared from the worst. Meteorologists say anything could happen. So what do we need to know? Joining us is the man of the hour, ABC 7 Chief Meteorologist Bob Harrigan, Sarasota City Manager Tom Barwin, and joining us by Skype is Maury Goodman, the former Director of Communications for FEMA. Maury, thank you very much for joining us. And we've heard so much about FEMA over the last week or so because of Hurricane Harvey. In your experience, what is FEMA doing right now, especially considering the track of the storm is so uncertain?
Well, FEMA doesn't put people into harm's way, so they're not in the path of the hurricane right now. They're probably waiting at Region 4 headquarters in Atlanta. They're probably in the. There's a lot of FEMA people that are in the EOC in Tallahassee, the state EOC with the state, and they're waiting for the storm to pass so that they can go in because they don't put people into harm's way. FEMA really isn't response-oriented as much as they are recovery-oriented. So as soon as the storm passes, that's where the bulk of FEMA activity occurs.
And Tommy, you were shaking your head right now. Obviously, you have a big job in the next couple of days. People want to know, is Sarasota ready?
I think the state, the county, the cities are very ready. The state invests a lot of resources in this, and we're going to be watching very carefully for the next 24 hours inside of the emergency operations centers. we're waiting till Friday night at this time, and that's when the final, I guess, cone of uncertainty will begin to narrow a little bit, and we'll be able to be much more anticipatory in terms of specifically what will happen. But we're preparing for the worst, obviously hoping for the best.
I am literally the cone of uncertainty. Bob, obviously this makes it completely very difficult because we, at least on the Suncoast, don't know, what to expect. As Tom said, we hope for the best, prepare for the worst. It could get tropical storm winds or something less.
No, I would say tropical storm force winds are the best we can hope for right now. The worst case scenario would be hurricane force winds with maybe Category 2 status. It's too hard to speculate right now, but I would not be surprised to see that. And we heard earlier from a former FEMA director that they usually set up stages, and they'll be staging maybe in Atlanta. Well, FPL does that too. And if this storm were to move right across the spine of the state, there's no real place that will be safe in the peninsula. I mean, everyone at that point would get hurricane force winds on the East Coast and on the West Coast, all the way up to Gainesville, if that scenario played out, and that's the European. So this is going to be this is going to have a huge impact on the state, and depending upon where it moves, it's going to get worse on the East Coast if it stays there. And if it goes up the spine, everyone's going to get some impact. And if it goes up the West Coast, we could really be in trouble.
All right, we are just getting started. We'll have much more on Irma right after we check Bob's First Alert weather. Stay with us.
Attention, Americans eligible for Medicare. Are you getting all the benefits you're entitled to? Did you know there may be money available to lower your medical prescription costs? Call Health Markets and we'll tell you if you qualify.
Hi, I'm Dr. Martin Jeetsi. It's a new Medicare year. That means more changes and more confusion. The key question is, what can you do now to ensure you get the care you need in the coming year?
Call Health Markets today. You may qualify to save money on prescriptions. We'll help you find plans that may cost less, cover more, and could even lower your prescription costs to increase your savings. We help you find all the benefits you're entitled to, and we do it at no cost.
Make sure you have what you need to get the care that's right for you.
Find out if you qualify to receive extra help with your prescriptions. Call the number on the screen now. Representatives are standing by.
Are you Goodwill?
Yes, because when I donate
or shop at Goodwill,
I am creating a job.
I am Goodwill, yeah.
Want the latest weather and traffic conditions wherever you go? Introducing ABC7's revolutionary new First Alert weather app. With our state-of-the-art new weather app, you get up-to-the-minute weather alerts, interactive radar maps, current conditions, 10-day forecasts, real-time traffic maps, and weather video from ABC7, all at your fingertips. And it's free. Just search Suncoast WX in the App Store and download onto all your devices today. Sponsored by Mr. Sparky.
Your daughter just had her first breakup. Do you A, put yourself in her shoes? B, console her?
Don't worry, sweetie. This is gonna happen a lot.
Or C, find her a new boyfriend?
Nice, single boys. That was weird.
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
It's rainy season on the Suncoast. Storms can pop up at a moment's notice. Sometimes it's just rain. Sometimes it's much worse. When severe weather strikes, trust ABC7 First Alert Weather. We're here for you.
Our conversation on Hurricane Irma continues right after we get a check on First Alert forecast with Chief Meteorologist Bob Harrigan. Bob.
Well, right now there are hurricane watches in effect just to our south from Lee County all the way through the Keys and up along the East Coast parallel with Lake Okeechobee. Those are hurricane watches, soon to be changed to hurricane warnings. We are not at any watch at this point, but I do anticipate us here on the west coast of Florida to be in some sort of watch as early as tomorrow morning. That's what we're looking at right now. We continue in that cone of uncertainty, and unfortunately the track has shifted a little bit to the west, and they're basing that on the fact that the high pressure ridge, which is driving Irma to the west now, is going to be a little stronger and may force Irma a little bit further south. And if it does, that means it will delay its turn to the north. And if it delays its turn to the north, it gets more in western portion of, again, longitude, and that means it puts the entire state at risk possibly, and that would mean stronger winds for us projected right now. Well, as far as the enhanced satellite imagery goes, this is a big storm. We heard earlier from the governor, this is not an Andrew, this is not a Charlie. This is a huge storm with a very large wind field. In fact, if you were to look at it, it's about the tropical storm force winds over 300 miles from one side to the other. Again, the tropical storm force winds. Now, the hurricane force winds extend out over 60 miles from the center. If you remember with Charlie, they were only 20 miles wide as far as that goes. So this is a much bigger storm, and it has a chance to even expand its wind field even more so, especially if it interacts with Cuba. Now, Cuba may bring it down in terms of intensity, but if it does, the storm will actually expand a little bit more in its wind field and put the entire state at risk. I do expect tropical storm force winds here along the west coast of Florida if it follows this center line. But we don't like to focus on the center line because that's not where all the rough weather is. In fact, this is just projecting where the center of the storm is going to be. It will be in anywhere inside this cone of uncertainty that you see right there. This one in particular, as it projected right toward Miami or, again, Key Largo, and then heading off toward the north. That's the best guess right now is where that center is going to be, but we have wind flow and tropical storm force winds extending out over 100 miles to the southwest of the storm, so that would put us in tropical storm force winds. And as I alluded to earlier, we're starting to see a little shift on that in terms of the European forecast model. Well, here is where the hurricane watch is. You see that area right there all the way up just north of West Palm Beach and near Fort Pierce, south of Fort Pierce at this point. And there are hurricane warnings in effect for Cuba. No watches for us right yet, but I expect that to change, if not tonight at the 11 o'clock advisory. More than likely we'll see that change again at the 5 o'clock advisory in the morning. And it looks as though the rainfall, well, we're not going to see a whole lot of rain with this. People are asking questions about whether we are going to see any kind of significant storm surge, but right now that is not going to be a big issue. It looks like it's not going to be a huge storm surge, but it would be more so on the East Coast. We'll keep an eye on that for you as well. Rainfall amounts will not be all that strong as the storm will be moving relatively quickly. So it's not going to be a Harvey. We're not going to see 30, 40 inches of rain or anything like that, but we will see some significant problems with some street flooding as a result of the torrential downpours that we may see with this system as we move through time. Well, the 7-day forecast calling for a good chance for scattered storms, typical summer weather on Friday, Saturday, and then Sunday. The 70% chance rolls in, and that's the result of, we think, Irma, and that will continue on into Monday morning, and then we'll start to clear up a little bit later in the day on Monday. We'll be right back after this.
Credit card debt can ruin your life. If you owe $10,000 and minimum payments are siphoning away your paycheck each month, you can get debt-free in less time than you think.
I've paid $800 a month for the past 3 years and haven't changed the balance on my credit card.
Get debt-free now has a program to reduce your debt, stop the harassing phone calls, avoid financial ruin, and settle for less than you owe.
I feel like a huge weight has been lifted off my shoulders.
You're pre-approved for our special hardship program if you owe $10,000 or more. Upon payment of your new lower balance, your debt will finally shrink until you are debt-free.
My family no longer has 30 years of payments ahead of us at 20% interest.
There's no fees until you see results. So call now, make one monthly program payment, and free up your cash. Resolve your debt.
Call 800-628-1251, 800-628-1251.
Once you get atrial fibrillation, you need to have a very close relationship with your primary doctor. Prevention is the whole ball game here, because once you have a stroke, you can't undo it. A year without stroke, it's a year that you can enjoy doing the things that you've worked all your life to finally get to do. You took care of yourself. You did what is necessary for you to be around one more year. And then next year, we'll celebrate one more year without a stroke.
ABC 7, your Suncoast News. We're here for you. Watch ABC 7 wherever you are, on our live stream, on mysuncoast.com, on the ABC 7 My Suncoast app, powered by the Eye Associates, providing sight for life, featuring traffic maps and live radar, dining with recipes, and My Suncoast Restaurant Guide. Visit mysuncoast.com. Click on the Apps tab to download the ABC 7 My Suncoast app for Apple and Android.
Welcome back. Hurricane Irma is heading towards Florida with Miami in the bullseye, but we need to be prepared on the Suncoast. And joining us is the man of the hour, ABC 7 Chief Meteorologist Bob Harrigan, Sarasota City Manager Tom Barwin, and joining us by Skype is Maury Goodman, the former Director of Communications for FEMA. For all evacuations, we're going to be talking about that right now. Tom, we were talking earlier in the newscast in terms of the shelters that are going to be opening here in Sarasota and elsewhere. You have news tonight that one is going to be opening this evening. Why?
Well, just before coming on the show, I talked with County Administrator Tom Harmer, who has advised us that the state has asked the county to open a shelter here locally in Sarasota County as a host shelter for people who have to evacuate from other parts of the state. So sometime this evening, Brookside Middle School on Shade Avenue is going to be opened as a host shelter from those coming from other parts of the state.
I don't know if you could answer this, or Maury, that if you could answer this, but if you are leaving South Florida right now, coming up either from the Keys or the Miami-Dade area, how are you going to know what shelters in Sarasota or other parts of the state are going to be open?
I think the state has a messaging system, the county has a messaging system, all the local communities have messaging systems, and things really light up on Facebook. We're all communicating through Facebook these days, so there's quite a communication network that is formed. Now, general public shelters have not been announced for opening yet, but those are likely to happen. Booker High School locally here is a shelter, and I should mention Brookside is a pet-friendly shelter. Those announcements will probably be made tomorrow, if not sooner. There will be a press conference tomorrow morning at, I believe, 12:30 at the County Emergency EOC.
And I believe Riverview is also a pet-friendly shelter, if I'm not mistaken, in Riverview High School there. So that is a shelter. And I believe Pineview is no longer a shelter. So I've been getting those questions in. That is not a shelter anymore. And people sometimes don't understand that when you're asked to evacuate, you sometimes look at the closest shelter to you or school, and it may not be the case. So just make sure you pay attention to media, as well as social media and the county government's websites. They'll have it there.
Maury, over the last couple of days, ever since Harvey, we've been hearing that FEMA is running out of money. The Congress is voting on it right now. We know that the will is there, but what, if any, impact does it have on FEMA and its personnel if the monies are drying up as this hurricane is pulling into the state?
Well, there's no chance that FEMA will run out of money. It's disasters don't know Democrat from Republican, and there is no congressman or senator who will let a disaster go unfunded. So FEMA will get its funding, and FEMA always has an emergency fund. I don't know how much is in that emergency fund right now, but if they're running out of money, Congress will immediately appropriate a certain amount of money until there is a budget passed that includes new funding for FEMA. There will be an emergency allotment of money to take care of all the expenses that are necessary. There's no chance that FEMA will run.
We hear about FEMA all the time during tragedies like this or natural disasters like this, but I don't know if people in general know exactly what FEMA does after a storm like this. What is the mission of FEMA in terms of helping local people to recover?
Well, you might think of it as FEMA as the conductor of the orchestra. I'll give you an example. Hurricane Harvey, there's a disaster field office. They call it a joint field office now, which is the center of operations for all of Harvey, where all branches of government, all levels of government, state and local, the Coast Guard, the Department of Defense, the branches of the Armed Forces, Health and Human Services, all of the agencies of government co-locate there. In Hurricane Katrina, the Joint Field Office was in Baton Rouge at an abandoned shopping mall. And by shopping mall, I mean the kind of mall that had a Macy's at one end and a Sears at the other. A huge mall, and it was completely filled with 5,000 people working the disaster. Everything from satellite imagery to charting and housing. Housing is a huge part, obviously, as we all know, and it takes a lot of resources and a lot of partners to put the housing plan together and to launch the housing program.
All right.
So so there will be a place somewhere in Florida, away from the disaster area, where all of the agencies will co-locate to manage the disaster, and FEMA does the management of all that, and Mission assigns all branches of government, all agencies, to do whatever is needed to be done.
All right, why don't we take a couple of questions from Facebook? Most of them are directed at you, Bob, no surprise. Leslie asks, what makes a hurricane change direction?
Well, it's the mid to upper level winds, okay, and not the water. A lot of people think it's the water that directs the storm because it's always looking for that warm water. It's not. It's the winds at 30,000 feet, 40,000 feet that determine which way the storm is going to go. And in the case of Irma, there's a high pressure ridge which is known as the Bermuda High, which typically sits around Bermuda during the summer months, and the winds around it in a clockwise fashion is directing it at the base of that high toward the west. Well, it's just about as the western edge of that high where it starts to turn more toward the northwest. On top of that, there's a little piece of energy that's expected to develop and be left over from the trough over the eastern third of the nation. And that little piece of energy is going to be a counterclockwise swirl, and that's supposed to set up over the lower Mississippi Valley. So you get the feel that both winds are going to be going like this at the 30,000 foot level and 40,000 foot level, and we're right in between there, Florida. So they're going to converge, they're going to grab the storm and take it up north into Georgia and possibly South Carolina as a devastating storm. So the mid to upper level of the winds determine the direction of the storm. It's not the warm waters of the Atlantic or the Gulf.
Tom, I would imagine that the last couple of days has been pretty hard to manage in Sarasota. Just from personal observation, many gas stations have run out of gasoline, although they are being supplied once again. You go into local stores, water and bread is very hard to come by. At certain times, we hear that the storm is going off to the east. Now we're hearing it's coming back. I would imagine that makes the city's job a lot tougher.
Well, hurricanes are tricky. Our county director, Ed McCrane, has said this was one of the most interesting storms he's ever seen. For example, here in the city of Sarasota, we have about 2,000 hotel rooms. And earlier in the week, I know people who have evacuated from our community. Yet, when I went down to the Aloft, I met a family who evacuated here from Pompano Beach. And our hotel rooms on the mainland and downtown are virtually full. So we've had people evacuate from here. We've had people evacuating to here. Yeah. So it's really interesting. They're making personal judgments based on the information that they're comfortable with.
And Maury, we only have a couple of seconds left, but I would imagine that makes, you've seen that before, and it makes things difficult. People are trying to get out of the way of the storm only to relocate to places where the storm is actually going to wind up.
Yeah, that's the another cone of uncertainty is where people are going to go. The best thing to do is to get as far away as you possibly can, and not think that just going to mid-Florida or North Florida is going to solve the problem and get out of the way, because it could be devastating in North Florida as well. So the farther you go, the better, and that's the word of advice for evacuations.
Right. We have to take a quick break. Final thoughts when we return. Stay with us.
It's Lincoln's summer sales event here at Alex Karras Lincoln. Drive a brand new 2017 Lincoln MKC Sport Utility for $269 per month, or a 2017 MKZ for $299 per month. We have a great selection of certified pre-owned Lincolns. These vehicles have warranties up to 100,000 miles and come with complimentary roadside assistance. Alex Karras Lincoln, affordable luxury, winner of the prestigious 2015 President's Award, serving Florida's Sun Coast since 1978. We're located 2 miles north of the Sarasota-Bradenton Airport on US 41.
Hi, I'm Joan London with A Place for Mom. Over the years, we've helped thousands of families find senior care, and today's senior living communities have never been better, with amazing amenities like movie theaters, exercise rooms and swimming pools, public cafes, bars and bistros, even pet care services. And nobody understands your options like the advisors at A Place for Mom. These are local expert advisors that will partner with you to find the perfect place and determine the right level of care, whether that's just a helping hand or full-time memory care. Best of all, it's a free service. Call today. A Place for Mom. You know your family, we know senior living. Together, we'll make the right choice.
Call A Place for Mom right now to get our free ebook on financing senior care, as well as a free referral for senior living communities in your area. Call 1-800-290-0352. That's 1-800-290-0352.
Hamilton was adopted from a rescue in 2008. He really likes to be around people. And as soon as I start to make my breakfast, Hamilton is right there. I get out my mat and I'm doing a downward dog and he's underneath. He's quite the pug about town. He gets invited to a lot of parties. He knows he's a pretty big deal. I mean, look at this little face. How could you not love him?
Check out My Suncoast Dining on mysuncoast.com, your guide to the foodie lifestyle. ABC 7's own Chef Judy serves up her favorite recipes, cooking tips and trends, dining blogs, step-by-step videos, and Suncoast Restaurant Guide. You'll find it all at mysuncoast.com/dining.
What do we need to know about Hurricane Irma? Our guests join us right now for final thoughts. Maria, I'm going to start with you. Obviously, your former colleagues in the government have been working very hard over the last couple of weeks with Hurricane Harvey. Are they up to now turn around and handle what's coming our way?
Well, I have to tell you, it's going to be a stretch. Two huge storms on the heels of each other is something that just doesn't happen very often. In fact, I can't remember when two huge storms like this have happened back to back. So there are a lot of contractors and there are a lot of seasonal employees, or they call them disaster reservists, that will be called up, and they'll be probably hiring local people to do a lot of the work as well. And that's really good, hiring people who have lost their jobs from the disaster. But FEMA has a lot of staff in Washington and throughout the regions. There's 10 regions in FEMA, and people will come together from all of the regions to work this disaster.
And of course, Tom, people are going to want to know, is the city of Sarasota ready?
I think we're very ready. Over the next 24 hours, the storm picture will clarify. Then we'll have 24 to 36 hours before we actually feel the storm here. So there's 48 hours for people to continue to monitor, make good, smart, personal judgments. And in the city and the county, it's all hands on deck. As I said, we're prepared for the worst, hoping for the best. You know, the new laws in Florida have all of our modern homes are much stronger, and our grocery stores here have backup generators, so they're not going to have spoilage issues. That's the Publix and the Whole Foods. So I think we're about as ready as we can be.
Bob, modern technology and social media is giving us the opportunity to answer a lot of your questions.
Right.
What is the best question that you are getting right now?
Well, a lot of people want to know if they should evacuate. And, you know, it's not up to me to tell them yes or no. I tell them that the typical situation is that if you are in the zone that's asked to evacuate, that's when you leave. You hear the old saying, you know, run from the water, hide from the wind. And what that means is that if you're going to be inundated with salt water, then you're going to be asked to evacuate based on the forecast models. But if you're in a storm that has 150-mile-an-hour winds and you're away from the salt water, you are not going to be asked to evacuate. A lot of people are jumping the ship, so to speak, and leaving here and going north, I think mainly based on what happened with Harvey. That's in their mind, and I'm getting out of here, I'm not going to stick around with this storm. But what they're doing is a disservice, because there's a lot of people trying to get out of here.
All right, we have to leave it there. We have already seen the incredible power of Hurricane Irma. Yesterday, it barreled through the Caribbean, leaving a trail of destruction and death. And two young women from Sarasota had front row seats. I spoke by Skype to Lauren Mayo and Holly Morris, who remain on St. Martin, where they were vacationing.
It was incredibly, incredibly loud. It really did sound like a freight train was coming through, and it was pitch black, so we couldn't really see a lot. But we sort of were putting our hands up to the glass on our balcony doors and windows to just see kind of like
how bad the shaking
was, and it was really, really bad. And when those started to give, as much as they were starting to give, we all sort of made the decision to move into the bathroom. We also, at that point, we still had power, so I was able to call the operator at the hotel and say, listen, we feel like water is pouring in through our windows and doors. Like, where do you suggest we go? Because we had been told in no uncertain terms, are we supposed to open any doors, because it would compromise the integrity of the building. So they said, get in your bathroom, close all the doors, lock the doors if you can, and just sit down and like wait it out in there. And it was just rattling and shaking. We could hear the wind howling. Really, the whole building was shaking. And then just as we were doing that, unfortunately, the lights went out. So that added to the terror a little bit as well. But we were obviously really glad we had each other, and everybody really did maintain as calm a head as you could in a situation like that. But it was really scary. It was because we also didn't have any updates, so we didn't know if this was as strong as it was going to get, if it was going to get worse. We also hadn't had the eye yet, so we knew we had a long ways to go. And so even though we had held up, our room had held up to that point, we did not know how it was going to hold up for 6 more hours or 8 more hours. And just with the deafening noise and everything rattling and shaking, it was really scary.
We swept all the water out the door. We had a couple of inches, but if you go outside of our hotel, the buildings across the street are missing windows and doors. The roofs have come off. There's cars that are turned upside down.
Holly Morris and Lauren Mayo from Lux Fit Wellness. We hope that they get home soon and safely. And FYI, you can watch past discussions. They're on demand. They're available on Apple TV, Amazon Fire, and Roku. We want to thank our guests for being here tonight. ABC 7 Chief Meteorologist Bob Harrigan, Sarasota City Manager Tom Barwin, and joining us by Skype, Maury Goodman, the former Director of Communications for FEMA. When we return, we'll have a final look at your first alert weather. Plus, what does President Trump plan on doing for the victims of Hurricane Harvey? We'll tell you when we return.
Attention, Americans eligible for Medicare. Are you getting all the benefits you're entitled to? Did you know there may be money available to lower your medical prescription costs? Call Health Markets and we'll tell you if you qualify.
Hi, I'm Dr. Martin Jeetsi. It's a new Medicare year. That means more changes and more confusion. The key question is, what can you do now to ensure you get the care you need in the coming year?
Call Health Markets today. You may qualify to save money on prescriptions. We'll help you find plans that may cost less, cover more, and could even lower your prescription costs to increase your savings. We help you find all the benefits you're entitled to, and we do it at no cost.
Make sure you have what you need to get the care that's right for you.
Find out if you qualify to receive extra help with your prescriptions. Call the number on the screen now. Representatives are standing by.
40 million. That's the number of free phones still available and the number of how many Americans can still get prescriptions free.
Free could be wonderful. That's why I'm still working at 77 years old to pay off my prescriptions.
I needed to have a prescription filled and I had to leave because I couldn't afford it.
Call now and see what's available for you. Free prescriptions. Over 10 million people get prescriptions free, and the program has expanded so another 40 million can. Free dental. Over 15,000 dentists have provided over $330 million in free dental work. Free cell phones. 40 million free cell phones are still available with free minutes and more.
Free cell phone would change my life right now because it is something I cannot afford to get.
Medical supplies like back braces, knee braces, and diabetic supplies may be covered too. The free RX Plus hotline has saved callers over $12 million on their prescription costs. These free programs are now available to 40 million more people. Call now.
Your primetime headlines are coming up in a moment, but right now let's get a final check on our first alert forecast from Chief Meteorologist Bob Harrigan. Bob.
Bob, we continue to watch it move toward the west-northwest now, and Irma is still a Category 5 hurricane with winds at 175, moving to the west-northwest at 16. Pressure's come up just a little bit. We expect it to be a major hurricane as it makes landfall somewhere in this cone. Hopefully it's more here than right here. That would be the worst-case scenario for us, but the Hurricane Center suggesting somewhere in between, and we'll see how that plays out. A lot can happen from now and then. There are no tropical storm or hurricane watchers or warnings for us right now. People are asking me a lot on social media about, should I evacuate? Well, you should know your zone for one, and how to do that, I've posted it on my, again, Facebook page, my professional page at WWSB, Bob Harrigan, Chief Meteorologist Bob Harrigan. Go to that, and the Know Your Zone websites are on that. I just posted that, so you want to check that out if you don't know your zone. And right now, it looks like there will be some evacuations as a result of the tropical storm warning, but more than a hurricane watch, which will be issued either later tonight or tomorrow morning for the west coast of Florida. So I think they'll just extend this upward on both coasts for the next advisory. If not this one, more than likely it'll be the one tomorrow morning, as that hurricane watch is in effect for all the Keys and along the east coast of Florida. Well, as far as we're concerned, we have a chance for some showers and storms still scattered about through this evening. You can see from the spaghetti models that most of them cluster on the east, but a couple are shifting back west. They've been going back and forth, and I think they'll continue to do so until this storm starts to make a break off toward the north sometime late Friday or early Saturday. You can see this is the GFS model. This at one point just 2 days ago was right here, and now it's shifted a pretty good deal to the west and with the latest run. So that's something to look out for. If this were to develop and move in this direction, that too would bring us very strong tropical storm force winds here and even possibly hurricane force winds in our interior counties such as Hardee, DeSoto, and looks like even to Highlands County. A lot remains to be seen, so there's still no evacuations at this time, but the European model did do a little shift to the west as of late, and it looks like instead of Miami, it will be to the west thereof. That, again, is subject to change, so I want to let people know that that's not a definite. We're not focused on the center. We're focused on the entire storm, which is a big one, and we are going to feel impacts here along the west coast of Florida unless it moves all the way back over to the Bahamas, and then we wouldn't see nearly as much of an impact. Well, for boaters, it's going to be okay, but things are going to deteriorate over the weekend. Friday, 50% chance for scattered storms. Even those could bring some locally heavy rainfall around, and that would cause some problems with the ground being saturated. This doesn't appear to be a big rain event either. So although we will see some heavy rainfall, we're not going to see anywhere near like 10 to 20 inches of rain, but we certainly could see 5 to 8 in some isolated areas. A lot more to be played out on Irma for the Suncoast. We'll keep you up to date through the night.
The following message is brought to you by Mesobook.com.
People who have been diagnosed with mesothelioma have many questions. How did I get this disease? What are my treatment options? How will this affect my loved ones? You need answers, which is why we offer a free book written by medical professionals who have treated mesothelioma.
Call toll-free at 1-800-777-1366 or go to Mesobook.com.
This is an important medical announcement. Bard IVC filters have been linked to punctured veins and problems with migration. Anyone who's received a Bard IVC filter must receive medical monitoring and may be entitled to substantial compensation. If you have the Bard Recovery G2 or G2 Express filter, you are in a class of patients who should be compensated for some expenses. Call now for a free assessment of your case and potential money damages. This call is confidential. There's no cost and you may be eligible. Juries have awarded millions of dollars to people who should have been warned about the risks of the Bard IVC filters. Call the IVC Filter Hotline if you or a loved one has received an IVC filter and experienced a vein puncture or required medical monitoring. You must call now.
Call 800-329-3089. 800-329-3089.
Everything all right?
Actually, you know how Tom had knee surgery?
Sure.
We found out Brad's been taking his painkillers. And it turns out he's been doing it for a while.
Most people don't know what to say about drugs, but we do. Visit us at drugfree.org.
Every child follows a path in life. For many, that path will lead them to a door that gives them a place to grow, to learn, to belong, a place to forge their future. Because while many doors open, these doors transform. They did for us. Support your local Boys and Girls Clubs. Great futures start here.
Checking our primetime headlines, President Trump struck a bargain with Democrats over the debt ceiling, leaving some members of his own party in the House and Senate angry. Stacey Cohen reports.
Thank you very much.
Outnumbered 5-2 during an Oval Office meeting, Democrats still managed to score a victory. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer and House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi struck a bargain with President Trump to link Hurricane Harvey relief money to a very short 3-month increase in the debt ceiling. Pelosi says it wasn't easy.
Because I was reading on TV, we went in there, we put it on the table, boom, out the door. No, it wasn't like that at all. It was a very long, intense conversation.
Republican leaders were shell-shocked and annoyed. House Speaker Paul Ryan publicly condemned the idea of this bargain just hours before the meeting on Wednesday. On Thursday, the speaker said the president pushed for unity.
But he was interested in making sure that this is a bipartisan moment while we respond to these hurricanes. And he made that clear, and I think that's what his motivation was.
Several Republicans are blasting the plan, but despite the opposition,
the amendment is agreed to.
The deal passed 80-17 in the Senate. All 17 no votes were from the GOP. For Republicans, the reality is simple. Failure to raise the debt ceiling long term could cause panic on Wall Street, and Republicans just don't have the votes to win.
Here, the currency of the realm is the vote. You have the votes, no discussion necessary. You don't have the votes, 3 months.
In Washington, I'm Stacey Cohan.
President Trump on Thursday sought to reassure undocumented immigrants who may be affected by his move to end DACA that they are not being deported today. Trump tweeted, quote, "For all of those DACA, they are concerned about your status during the 6-month period. You have nothing to worry about. No action." DACA, the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program, gave deportation protection to some undocumented immigrants brought to the U.S. as children. Trump's tweet references the 6-month period during which expiring permits may be renewed if applications are sent in by October 5th. Donald Trump Jr. met with a Russian lawyer in June 2016. That much we know. On Thursday, sources say that the eldest son of President Trump told Senate Judiciary Committee staffers he didn't take any of the Russian participants in the meeting to see his father. He also said that he did not tell his father about the meeting after it was over. According to the New York Times, Trump Jr. reportedly told investigators he set up the meeting with the Russian lawyer after being promised damaging information about Hillary Clinton because he says it was important to learn about her fitness to be president. According to the Times, Trump Jr. said in the prepared statement nothing came out of the meeting and that he did not collude with the Russian government. And that's all the time we have for this evening. I'm Alan Cohn. Thanks for joining us, and have a good night.
I dropped it on the floor, and he stepped on it.
No matter how you broke your smartphone, there's only one smart way to fix it. Batteries Plus bulbs. Schedule your repair at batteriesplus.com.